You spent 2 weeks building it. A beautiful plug-in ready system, factory patterns with dependency injection that works. Then you checked actual usage. One call site. The whole abstraction existed for a single use case that could have been a 12-line function only, guys. You built it for a future that never came. I have been there multiple times. So here comes one great concept called over-engineering. Over-engineering is not always about bad engineers. Some of the most over-engineered code I have seen was written by genuinely smart people. People who knew design patterns could flex in reviews, for sure. The problem was not their skill. They optimized for the wrong thing. Imaginary scale, hypothetical extensibility, or honesty. Honestly, just to feel clever, guys. But this is what makes over engineering sticky. It does not feel wrong, it feels responsible. What if we need to swap the database? What if they scale to millions? Smart question need to ask in the right context. The problem is asking them for a CRUD app used by 40 internal employees. That context check, most of us usually skip it entirely. And that is the real problem. So PRs that take longer because nobody understands the abstraction. Onboarding takes a week longer because the layers does not exist. You spend 20 minutes finding a bug buried in 3 levels of indirection. And what's the painful part here? The engineer who built it usually is not paying the tax. They moved on. Someone else is leaving it, guys. That's the real problem. So, from where it started, design patterns are taught as solutions and almost never as tools with a specific context. I don't remember a course that said, here's when not to use a factory. Here's what a healthy two-file solution looks like. We learn to add. We don't learn to resist, guys. So the growing abstraction feels like progress because we were taught it should. That's the problem. Now comes here an interesting part. Junior engineers tend to solve the problem in front of them. Senior engineers fall into the opposite trap. They have seen enough to know what can go wrong. So they build for every failure mode upfront. That's not the wisdom. That's anxiety wearing that's anxiety wearing the mask of architecture. The best engineer I have respected, they build the simplest thing. Then they wait. So for a long time, I believed the code quality was measured by how it looked in review. Clean interfaces, thoughtful abstractions, reviews rewarded that. Nobody pushes back on good abstractions, but the code base bloats away. A lot of over engineering is performance, engineering as communication. Look what I know, rather than engineering as problem solving, guys. Here comes the most important concept, Yagini. Yagini is widely known. Most engineers can define it, but knowing it and applying it are different. Because Yagini requires admitting you cannot predict the future. And building for it anyway is a form of hubris. It's really hard to tell I am being pragmatic from I am rationalizing the architecture I am already wants to build. That's where the real work is. The question I started asking, who actually needs to change the code and when? Not who might, who and when. If the answer is unclear or far away, I do less now. I write for the next engineer who opens the file, not a hypothetical project manager 3 years out. That shift from imagined future to actual present made my code smaller and genuinely more useful. So I used to abstract speculatively. Now I wait. Build it in line the first time. When the second real use case appears, not theoretical, actual, then extract. The abstraction has information now. Two concrete shapes, not one imagined one. The interfaces emerges from usage rather than being imposed on the top of it. That's when it actually fits. So there was a point where 6 abstraction layers feels like respect. Someone clearly thought hard about this. Now my first reaction is, was any of this is necessary? Cleverness is not same as quality, guys. The best code I have ever worked in lately has been embarrassingly simpler. The kind where a new engineer is fully productive in a day. That's the main target we should have. So I started treating scope creep in my own work the same way I would treat in a requirement doc. If it was not the stated problem, it did not go in. Smaller PRs, fewer lines, faster reviews, etc. And my credibility went up, not down. Nothing signals confidence like a small, precise, well scoped change. That's harder than it sounds. But that is the job. You can't do at all anything about it. I'll say this once. Some over engineering is deliberate obscurity. If only you understand the problem, guys, you become harder to replace. I don't think most engineers do this consciously. But if you ever been the only person who could explain something and found a small, quiet comfort in that, I think you know what I mean, guys. In a lot of engineering cultures, complexity is treated as a seriousness. The engineer who refactors something down to 12 lines gets a nice cleanup. The new abstraction layers gets a 20 message thread about architecture. Both got attention, guys, but only one signal real architecture thinking. That's the cultural problem. But you can only choose to opt out. We can't run away from that, guys. The engineers I have respected most are not the ones who build the most impressive systems. They are the ones whose code I could step into on day one and understand, where the solution was sized to the problem, where abstraction only existed because it was needed. That kind of restraint is harder than it looks. And the person who comes after you won't hate you for it for sure, guys. Simplicity is not the absence of its thoughts, guys. It is a result of more thoughts. Anyone can add. It takes discipline to remove. To say this abstraction is not earning its weight. We talk a lot about building things that scale. I think we should talk more about building things that last, that are clear, that the next engineer can actually work with. That's the craft. If you like this video, subscribe Decoded Engineer for more content like this. Thank you.